Hi, I put together a short compilation of videos on Chuck Close. This will give you some insight into his life, his artwork, past and present. Throughout the video, there will be questions for you to answer. Before you can move on in the video, you'll have to answer the questions. This will be for a grade. It is your responsibility to complete the assignment. Chuck Close was born in Monroe, Washington, 1940. He is now in his mid-70s. Close suffered from severe dyslexia, which had him struggle through all of his school work except for art. When he went through school, there were no learning disabilities. They just thought you were dumb and lazy. After high school, he went to the University of Washington School of Art and Yale University School of Art and Architecture. Close became well known for his large-scale paintings, specifically the hyper-realistic portraits. In 1988, he had a rare spinal artery collapse. It left him nearly all paralyzed. Even after physical therapy, Close became permanently bound to a wheelchair with only limited use of his limbs. Because of this, he can no longer make his photorealistic portraits. Instead, he makes portraits that are more surreal and less precise. To do this, he uses a brush strapped to his wrist and a grid on his canvas.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
Stepping back from these small squares of paint reveals a self-portrait of the artist, Chuck Close. Stepping into Close's studio reveals an artist of phenomenal talent and great physical courage. Come see for yourself. A circle here, a heart shape there. Could there be hidden meaning in these images?
The building blocks of my paintings are not symbolic. They don't stand for anything.
Every day, Chuck Close paints little squares.
And it's a little bit like an architect picking a brick. You stack up the bricks one way, you get a cathedral. You stack up the bricks another way, and you get a gas station.
But take a step back, and it becomes clear this is no gas station. Over 4 decades, Chuck Close has been reinventing the art of the portrait, even though for almost 2 of those decades he has done it confined to a wheelchair. More on that shortly.
So here's where all the decisions are made. I mean, literally at this distance, I never go back. Yeah, I know from years and years of experience what 4 or 5 or 6 of these colors will do from a distance.
He starts every painting the same way, with a photograph. Do you number these
Yeah.
so that you know which square and how
If you look at the photograph, every square here will become 4 squares in the painting. There is no drawing on the canvas other than the grid. I never draw a nose, I never draw a lip or anything like that.
We first visited Chuck Close in 1981. He was working out on an exercise bicycle in his New York studio. Our visit was during his photorealism period. Close's paintings were so real, some viewers thought they were looking at photographs. And they were big, really big. The first painting Close sold was a 9-foot picture of himself, blemishes and all.
There's all kinds of evidence embedded in the person's face as to what kind of life they've led. It's a sort of roadmap of their life. If they've laughed their whole lives, they have laugh lines. If they've frowned their whole lives, they have furrows in their brow.
But when Sunday Morning visited Chuck Close again in 1991, the roadmap of his life had taken an unexpected turn. He could barely walk. 3 years earlier, at age 49, a blood clot had formed in an artery leading to his spine. For weeks, he couldn't move any part of his body below his shoulders. He feared he would never paint again.
I was scared to death. Yeah, scared to death. I think I always thought I was going to make it. I was scared of living trapped in a body that didn't work.
His wife convinced doctors that encouraging him to paint again would help her husband recover, physically and mentally.
Thanks. We began to work with my occupational therapist in the hospital and try and get the orthotic devices, something that I could use to hold a brush. And they built me a wheelchair accessible easel, and I used occupational therapy for what I thought it was supposed to be, a way to get back to your occupation. And I started to paint while I was still in the hospital.
Today, you can find Chuck Close painting in his Bridgehampton, Long Island studio, or at his second studio in New York City. His ability to walk has all but vanished. A brace supports his arm. His brushes are held by a strap on his hand. And he now paints with his entire arm, not just his wrist and fingers. And there are other adjustments.
And then it goes up and down so that I'm always at, the right height.
Has your work suffered, or is in some ways has it ripened and gotten better?
What's changed is perhaps a slightly brighter palette, a more celebratory nature to the work, because I was just so happy to be able to get back to work and to find a way to work again. The other thing is that there's so many other things that I used to love to do that I put a lot of time and energy into. I used to mow the lawn and cut brush and dig holes and chop down trees and walk on the beach and roughhouse with my kids and all of this stuff that I can't do anymore. Thankfully, if I'm only going to be able to still do something that I used to do, I'm pretty lucky that it turned out to be painting.
His family is the center of his life, and he likes to paint them. His wife, Leslie. His daughters, Georgia and Maggie. He also paints his friends, including many other artists. Close says his paintings have evolved, moving away from superrealism to focus more on abstract elements in the face. Occasionally does somebody look at what you've done and say, be mad that you've done what you have to their face?
Oh, almost always. Almost everybody hates the way they look. Some people immediately change the way they look, grow a beard if they didn't have one, or shave it off if they did. But I always say, just wait another 10, 15 years and you won't hate it so much.
Which may be why Close remains his own favorite subject. You've done so many self-portraits.
Yes. I never thought of them as a body of work until recently there was a retrospective of only self-portraits. And then I thought, oh my God, how narcissistic, how incredibly self-involved and egotistical, and even I'm tired of me. I don't want to see another image of myself.
In recent years, Close has begun to focus on photography. He uses the earliest form of capturing an image, daguerreotypes.
It's exactly the same process as 1840. And in my opinion, photography never got any better than it was at the very beginning. Everything I love is already there.
And the bigger, the better. Last fall, corporate giant United Technologies displayed an assortment of Close's images in a New York park.
I wanted to celebrate ordinary people, so I decided to use them because they are so intimate.
Chuck Close is 66 now. His work sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it is shown all over the world. 20 years after he almost died, he says he is one of the happiest artists you'll ever meet.
There is no artist alive working today who gets more pleasure day in and day out, year in and year out, than I do, period. None. I know there is no man or woman who gets more pleasure than I do.
In 2000, Close was given the National Medal of Arts by President Clinton and is also a member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters. He was just recently selected by President Obama to to be on the President's Committee on the Arts in the Humanities. Chuck Close is now exploring photography, creating large-scale portraits.
The reason I use the Polaroid is that I'm not stealing anyone's image. After every shot, the picture goes up on the wall. I can look at it, and the sitter can look at it. They say, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. And then the next one is closer, and the next one is closer, until we eventually get what we want. So it's collaborative, and I'm just not comfortable not letting them be an active part in the process. And I don't do glamour shots, and they're not, they're not airbrushed, there's whatever. So they can be rough. So I need to talk people through it. They have to give up a great deal of vanity in order to do it. And it takes a real act of generosity and faith on the part of the subject, to go with it and to give me their image without having any control over what's going to happen. But I think people realize that I'm trustworthy. So I say no hair, no makeup, no wardrobe. Pick something, wear it, come on in, comb your own hair, and let's get going. It's the size of a Volkswagen, and you shove this baby right down their throat. It's very intimidating. And I'm on the other side of the camera, looking in the ground glass screen, which is backwards upside down, and I'm barking orders at them. If they think that I'm going to be less than flattering, they can get very defensive. But if they trust me, and we slowly move towards what we want, and then we get it. And I think it looks really different from anything else I've done, and certainly different from anything else you guys have produced. I think it's going to be shocking to people. There will be people who think I didn't glamorize the subject enough, and they think I was cruel, and I didn't flatter the sitters enough. There will be people who say, thank God somebody shows people as real people the way they are, and their humanity shows through. And I do think humanness and humanity is pretty much the essence of a portrait. But I'm looking forward to the letters to the editor.